My name is Peter. It's nice to meet you. I'm the Director of Developer Advocacy at MariaDB Corp. Any relational database users? Okay, honestly, I figured that would almost be everybody. That was a trick question, but okay, good. All right, so people are listening. That's good. All right, okay. So anyone heard of MySQL before? Also a trick question, but just kidding. So MariaDB is well known for being a fork of MySQL, but that was a long time ago. Turns out software evolves after a number of periods of engineers working on it over a period of years. So that's what a lot of people know what MariaDB was. What it is something I'd love to talk to you about after the session. I just want to talk to you a little bit about this, about machine learning and how we're working with MindsDB. So just quick level set, like why? Like why database with MindsDB? Like what even is the point? Like what's the role of an external database in a MindsDB scenario? So if you think about the fact that MindsDB is doing really cool things, wiring together these language models, language frameworks on one side, and then wiring together data sources and interesting applications on the other. What's the database doing in this scenario? Well, we know what the language model is doing. Talked a lot about that. The database, the operational database at least, like some certain types of NoSQL databases, SQL databases like MySQL, MariaDB, they're the things that host your operational data, right? This is the platform that your app, your API, your mobile app, is resting on top of. Like this is the thing your app is persisting data into and absolutely needs. Like if the connection isn't there, your app isn't working, right? So that's where there's data that you're going to potentially want to analyze, right, and look at. There's other sources, of course, I get that. But there's also a lot of interesting things you can do when you have operational data available to you. So that's one role, right, of a database in this scenario, where it's a source of training data. It's a source of information, but it is also a repository. The insights that you generate, the predictions that you generate, the content that you generate, that all kind of needs to get stored somewhere. A gentleman asked one of the previous presenters, is MindsDB a storage solution? I mean, it can store data, but general purpose, NoSQL or SQL databases are designed for that, right? And do it at a very large scale. So that's just a word about sort of why, right? And what are we doing here? and what do they do together? If you talk about why MariaDB specifically, well, this idea that MindsDB brings the ML closer to the operational data is really interesting because it exits just huge amounts of complexity, right? All the ETL pipelines, all the CDC, change data capture stuff, all the marshaling data, feature stores, pipelines, like that's a lot of things that you can cut out of the equation by bringing the ML closer to your actual application and your data. That inference data, it can proliferate. It can be complex. It can be large. If you're thinking of large language models, notice how large is the first word in that sentence, right? You're potentially looking at big data issues. So you need something that is capable of storing data at large scale. Things like SQL databases are proven. You can serve AI over them. They've been around for many, many, many years, right? Stable. These are rock solid pieces of IT infrastructure that almost everyone raised their hand when I asked if they'd used it before. So what are we doing here? What's MariaDB? We build a great relational database that's open source for pretty much anybody, any workload, any cloud, any scale. Today I wanted to talk a little bit about the database service that MariaDB offers. It's a couple different things. It's not just MariaDB as a service. It offers you a couple different things. Let me show you in the console really quickly, but I just wanted to give you a taste in slides. So this is the Cloud Console. It's pretty simple. If you want to make a database, you just kind of click a plus here and you say, do I want an enterprise server single instance? Or maybe supersize me. I want to do distributed or replicated across a availability zone or a region. Or hey, maybe I want to do a more analytic workload, right? So you have a couple different flavors there, and you can go all the way up to full-blown distributed SQL, where you are programming against a single logical database. You're coding like it's a monolith, but under the covers, that there's a data fabric on the other side of that that's kind of exploding out and is multiplexing across the cloud. And then, yeah, I'll talk about Spark in a minute. Okay. So that's what some of the stuff you see here on the slide is talking about. Let me build that out a second. Okay, yeah. So, right, and this is for read scaling. This is for analytic workloads. And then this is for read and write scaling, the expand. So basically, a lot of words. There's different data services to help you at different points in your scale maturity and what kind of data you're going to output from these models. And then for folks that want a more Zeppelin notebook style exploration experience, or they're familiar with Apache Spark and they want that kind of data frame way of analyzing things, that's another service that's available on SkySQL just at a glance. Okay, cool. And then, I mean, I'm sure you all pretty much know this. It's why do you do a cloud service to begin with? That's basically so you don't have to be the DBA, right? Someone else is going to manage the SLA. We know MariaDB, obviously. We know how to manage it, and we know how to give you a good SLA. And we can also provide something that is not a lot of coding on your side to make sure that you get fault tolerance, that you get scalability, that you get failover, and without having to make it application aware and make it something that you need to code around. Types of workloads that you can run. Certainly, it can store data at scale from MindsDB, but also used in a huge variety of these kind of scenarios: transactional, JSON data, mixed workloads, analytics, and these are some of the different kinds of things you can do for it. It's a wide range of use cases because it's a general purpose database. Okay, so what am I talking about? What am I going to build? So we're going to just do a quick demo. Thanks again, Tom, for loaning this to me and teaching me how to do it. It's really cool. Basically, we're going to use MindsDB to scan and build a tweet bot. We're going to use MindsDB and SkySQL to scan the internet for Twitter content and then do interesting things with it. So I'll walk you through this diagram in a little more. This will make sense by the end of the demo, so don't worry if you're looking at it and be like, okay, I see lines and it's squiggly. The gray parts are MindsDB. The teal is that's the SkySQL database. So all we're doing, like I said, is we're going to scan information on Twitter, store it here. It's going to get kind of sorted into two spots, tweets that I'm interested in and tweets that I need to reply to. And then we're going to create a view of that data, feed it to a model, and reply to it. So let's see what that looks like. Let me pull it up here. Okay. So this is the MindsDB editor. You'll see here there's a couple connections that I've already created and a couple models that I've already created. But let's start with some basics. What we'll do is we're going to create a very, very simple model. 1 second. I'm going to drop the one I'd already created. There we go. And then I'm just going to recreate this one. And again, this is just executing very standard, sort of SQL-looking text, which is pretty easy to understand. So what am I doing? I'm going to create a new model. It's going to predict, and I'm going to have a response variable. I'm telling it I want to use the OpenAI engine, and then I'm saying, specifically GPT-4. And then here's where the magic happens: this prompt template. So I'm just going to execute that query while I'm talking. This is going to say, hey, respond to the prompt by this author. So, okay, great. Let's feed it something basic. I'm going to say, I want the response from this GPT model where the author is, MariaDB, and the text is, answer me, why is gravity so different on the sun? Okay, now this might take a second because, as you know, open APIs are, what are the two words I'm about to say? Rate limited, right? So if it's slow, it's not MindsDB, it's not SkySQL either. So it just will take a few seconds to generate. Great. So there's the scientific answer, right, or the straight answer, and about why it's different on the sun. So let's make it a little more interesting. Tom had a great idea to add some personality to these tweets and create a model called Snoopstein. By the way, this is Snoopstein. They are fake. This is a bot made by MindsDB. And the idea was, hey, let's create this model. Again, we're going to use OpenAI. If you want to feed it your own API key, by the way, you can. That's generally recommended by MindsDB for production-level systems, but they kind of include one as a convenience for you. Okay, so if you just want to do demos and things like that, like this one, they have some nice built-in features along in that sense. And so I'm gonna give it a little bit more interesting of a prompt. Let me expand this so you can see it a bit better. So here's the prompt. You're a Twitter bot. Your name is Snoopstein. You're helping people with their questions. You're smart, you're funny. In less than 200 characters, give me a tweet back saying, "Dear person," respond with a rhyme as if I was Snoop Dogg, but I was as smart as Albert Einstein, right? And then drop in some OG references and then sign it, MindsDB running on MariaDB SkySQL. Cool. So I created this model already, so I'm just gonna run it here. If I selected and executed all that, it would just say it already exists. So I'm just gonna feed it that and say my author is my Twitter handle, Pieter Humphrey. So great, we'll do that, and it will, again, take a few seconds to talk to OpenAI's API and generate a response. But, I mean, that's how easy it was to wire something up to Twitter. Like, bam. No, crazy extract, transform, load, no web scraping, no none of that. So really fun experience developing with MindsDB. It's like super easy in that. And then, hey, Sun's mass be groovy, gravity strong like a movie. It's denser. Okay, I'm not gonna be that guy that raps my way through it. Damn. All right. Okay, I'll see myself out. If you want, and then connecting it to Twitter is fairly straightforward. There's a way you can do that, and again, MindsDB will kind of provide a bearer token for you, but it's really designed for dev test scenarios. If you're doing this for realsies, you're probably going to want to supply your own Twitter API keys and all that. And rather than bore you with a demo of creating a Twitter account, going and getting my API keys and stuff like that, I'm going to spare you that, because I think you've probably done it before or know how to do it. But this is kind of what it looks like when you're going to do it for realsies and specify the full thing. That kind of unlocks the read-write capability and gives you the full capabilities that at least I'm going to be showing in this demo. Okay, so I've got plenty of time. Okay, now let's go back to the diagram here for just a second. So we're working. We're going to be creating this essentially in just a moment. So I'm going to do like one or two more demos here. We're going to be reading tweets from the internet and saying, hey, select stuff that's out there that has an @ mention of Snoop or Snoopstein or a hashtag, but it's not a retweet and it's not from Snoopstein themselves. So this is just using standard Twitter search syntax, right? I mean, you've seen that before. There's nothing funky about that. And then there's a creation date here, like I don't want to return the entire internet, just give me content after this certain date. So let's run that in the editor. And then great, we get a couple tweets here that it found. Tom and I were working on this and he ran it before, so there's some historical content here, but if I just kind of scroll up, you'll see like, oh, hey, there's a bunch of tweets that I didn't have to scrape off the internet, and it's coming right from the Twitter API. You can see if you kind of scroll out sideways, you get all kinds of yummy metadata like author name and conversation ID and all that good stuff. So fully functioning Twitter API, kind of giving you back very useful data. All right, so let me shrink this down a little bit again so we can read things. Great. And that's kind of what we're trying to build out here, right? We're trying to kind of assemble the tweets that I'm potentially interested in having an automated system respond to, right? So that's the first piece of it, identify, right? Like what do I want this system to respond to? Okay, so we've kind of done that, and then, just as a separate example, we could just as a quick demo, we could just say, hey, I just want to see things that that Snoopstein themselves has tweeted. Great. So, and then if you just kind of mentally snapshot this picture of this output for a second, and we go live to Twitter. Where's the Snoopstein handle? Oh, it's probably better shown in my notifications. There you go. You can see some of the same, this is the exact same data showing up. Cool. So let me come down here a little bit. And now what we're going to do is say, let's do another quick demo of it live. Let's publish a tweet. Let's make sure we can say things out to Twitter. So I'm just going to run this one right here and say, hey, where can an OG learn a little bit more about MariaDB, right? I didn't mean that to rhyme. I'm sorry. Yeah, there you go. So just a couple seconds later, there it is, right? Yeah, so we can print things out to Twitter pretty easily. But nobody wants to be in here in the MindsDB editor. Like this is not an automated process, right? This is not a chatbot. This is you constructing the circumstances that you want to automate. So let's look at maybe automating this. And for that, MindsDB offers something called jobs, which are the red squiggly lines here. And that is the continually running background process, right? That's going to do things for you while you're not paying attention. We'll create those jobs in just a second, but first we have to do a little bit of infrastructure setup, okay? If we want to automate this, we have to set up, we want to store some data, some of this data in SkySQL because it could potentially be a lot of tweets, right? And that's what a relational database is good at, is general data storage. So what we would do at this point is create a SkySQL service. So if I went to the dashboard, I have one created already because I didn't want you to have to watch the whole thing, but honestly, it's like a couple clicks. Basically, it's launch a cloud server, choose a column store, and then I'm basically saying, what region do I want to deploy on? And I didn't need a ton of computing horsepower, so I was just gonna, sorry, that went by quickly. I was just gonna choose a basic 4x16, like 4 vCPUs, 16 gigabyte, nothing too beefy, right? And accept the rest of the defaults and give it a service name. That would produce what you see here in the console, this analytics DB. So no, just so you don't think I'm doing anything magical here, but I just didn't want to have it wait 5 minutes for it to spin up all the containers or something. So within that, the only other infrastructure kind of thing you really need to do is set up security. So if you go into settings and secure access, you'll see here there's a couple IPs. The nice thing about SkySQL is like when I came here and plugged in this morning, it was like, hey, you better put the IP for this conference center in your allow list. And that's what you see here with the NASDAQ center. And it like actually prompted me to do that. So it'll kind of travel with you. But you need to allow MindsDB Cloud access right to the database, right? So otherwise, you're just going to get an HTTP 500 and it's going to shut down at the front door. And you can get that pretty easily by just saying new data source in MindsDB control panel here, or console, I should say. All right, hold on that. Did that to me last time. Let's try it again. Come on. Let me give it one more goose, see if it'll do it for me. There we go, yeah. So I'm just gonna pick one at random. You'll see here these IP addresses right here. So those are the ones you're gonna wanna put on the allow list. And you can literally copy and paste them. That's what I did there. So just as long as you have that network root, you're good to go. And then you can come here into the workspace. There's a full-blown query editor right here in the web console. And I'm going to create the database on the SkySQL side that MindsDB is going to talk to. In the MindsDB console, that's this guy, this thing right here. So I already have it created. You can see just by clicking on it, MindsDB console actually runs a select star statement, so it shows you whatever data is in there. Great, this is me just creating the table. You'll see it created this database called ChatbotDB, and I have the input and output. And that's what you see here in the diagram. That's the, hey, I scanned the internet, I queued up some tweets that match the criteria, and now I'm going to say, what's the stuff of that I need to want to reply to, and then sort of queue it up for processing. Okay, so that's all I'm creating right now. I'm creating the schema. That's all this is creating a schema to host that data. And so with that done, let me just scroll down a little bit here back to where I was in the demo. Yeah, so I've now set up, I've done all this. I've created my database. I've executed that in the SkySQL tool, not in the MindsDB tool. I just have it here to be able to show you the SQL. And I've created those tables. And then if I run this statement, which is auto kind of populated by the data source wizard. So if I just say new data source, it would give me all this, but with blank values. And you're just cut and pasting them from what's on the dashboard. So I'm just gonna X out of here so you see what I'm talking about. And if you click the Connect tab, you're gonna see like, there's the domain name, there's the port, the username, the password. If you go back to MindsDB, this is exactly the same information that I have highlighted here, right? Literally the same thing. And yes, Tom, don't worry, I will destroy this demo environment as soon as the demo's over, I promise. And then, that's what made this connection here. That's how I'm able to see what's in the chatbot input and what's in the chatbot output on the SkySQL cloud and connect it directly to MindsDB. And then from there, now it's okay, I've done all the infrastructure setup. Now I can get to the interesting part, right? Now I can start saying, how am I gonna automate this? I don't wanna be sitting at the console, typing select star, tweet something. Like, that's not how this works, right? It's a chatbot. So this is where it gets a little more interesting and the automation comes in. So I'm gonna basically say, go ahead and this is my select. This is what I want you to find. I'm gonna make these 3 job components. I want you to select certain tweets out on the internet, and then I want you to insert that into the chatbot input. Again, it's doing this job 1 here. It's doing this piece of it, right? And it's saying, run that on an ongoing basis, and then you'll be able to specify like how often you want it to run, like every hour, every 5 minutes, what have you. And same thing here. Now I'm saying output tweets. So what has Snoopstein, what is the Snoopstein account tweeted in response, right? I'm gonna track that too. So let's find out. If we just do that here in the console, this will be a list of everything that Snoopstein has tweeted, right? And then I can compare the two and say, hey, what things are out there that have not been responded to, right? And that way I know I'm kind of tracking and I'm not duplicate responding to people or doing any of that kind of stuff. Okay, so this part is just to create the replies and finish operationalizing this job here. So I'm gonna kind of select things from the chatbot input, and then here I'm creating a view. A view is a structure. You'll see that here in the MindsDB folder. You'll see the 2 reply to and the 2 tweet. These are views on top of the SkySQL data, but by having a view in MindsDB, it's easier to code against. So it's a nice programming shortcut. Instead of kind of having to type this the entire time, I could say select star from 2 reply to. And you know that it would execute this logic underneath. Okay. So then almost at the end here, I'm gonna join the model together with the database table. And then again, create a view there for convenience to make it easy. And if I select right now from this, there's no data in here because there's nothing out of the internet that I've given it to chew on. So it's a holding queue and it's blank. And then the job is what does it all, creates it all together, right? You're basically kind of putting the chatbot input in, you're inserting it into the chatbot output, and then you're saying, hey, put them back into the tweets list. And do this every minute, okay? And so you can go, if we're running that job, you can see what's happened in the past, and that this has gone on, oh wow, every minute this is running. So let's give it a whirl and see what happens. Here's my Twitter account. I am going to, let's see, let me make a tweet and ask Snoopstein something. Now this takes about 60 seconds, so it needs a moment. So while that's cooking, while that's baking, you can just kind of, I'll scroll back a little bit, and you can see some of the other responses that Snoopstein has given me based on a prompt that I put on Twitter that was fed to ChatGPT. It used the prompt that I designed into the MindsDB console, spit that back out to me, right? Now, you could easily imagine how this isn't just a Twitter bot, that this could be Slack, this could be other things. You could be monitoring for more structured data. Hey, when you detect a GitOps, piece of output that the code build completed, notify this person, right, on Slack or something like that. So a lot of potential uses for this beyond spreading information on social media. Okay, so let's give it. Should be soon. I should get a notification here. All right. While I'm waiting for it, because it does take a minute, and I've been impatient in the past. Yeah, that's really all it kind of took to wire this up. It took me, the better part of a day to kind of get familiar with the SQL. I'm still learning a little bit about how MindsDB works, what some of those reserved keywords are, how to, what features are built into the system. But I just found myself really appreciating how quickly productive I could be, and and not have to learn, a ton of ML and AI infrastructure. That's what really blew me away about it, is that, you could create some apps really, really, really quickly. Oh, there we go. Okay, here's my answer. I'll let someone else read it and rhyme it this time. Okay, hopefully you all can see that. Yeah, so with that, I think I've only got about a couple minutes left, so maybe I just wanted to stop there and say thank you. If you'd like to try it, this is a free service. You can sign up. There's a fair amount of free trial credit. Just go check out that URL right there and give it a whirl. And the MindsDB integration is built right into the console. If you log into SkySQL and you just click here over on the integrations bit, you'll see there's MindsDB right there. And like I said, if you're in MindsDB and you want to connect, it's simply add new data source, and you just type in SkySQL, which usually works, except when I'm demoing it in front of 30 people. And then you'll be able to just specify your connection string. There's also a really nice tutorial that's built into it too. It's not just the one that I did here, so there's a couple things you can do in terms of, like, there's a sample data set for home rentals and stuff. So it's pretty easy to get started with. All right, with that, let me say thank you. And